Welcome back, everybody, to Flight Path. If you are here in the US, it is the 4th of July week, which means we are in peak summer, and we are recording this on Wednesday afternoon. And we have an incredible show lined up for you. As always, I'm your host, David, CEO and co-founder here at Tern, joined by Molly, our head of product, and Brad, our head of design. And we are going to talk about everything that happened in the past 3 days. And you may be thinking to yourself, oh, it's like 3 days, not a lot happened. You'd be wrong. A lot has been going on. We've got a full show for you. We're going to give you a sneak peek at our Q3 plans. So whether you're listening to this on your way to the beach or to see some fireworks, or maybe just in your living room, we're glad you're here. Click that like button, leave us a comment, click subscribe if you haven't already. And we're going to get into the show. Brad, Molly, big week. Brad, how's it been for you? Let's start with you.
Wow, it's been a wild couple days already. I have a thing right here, like what I worked on this week, but the real highlight has been that Jack started, who's my partner. He's joined Tern. He's like starting as our head of data, and it's been a joy to work with him again. Also, I'm getting roasted in meetings by him, so that's just been a fun adjustment for me. But this week I got to
tell the story.
We've got to tell the story now. I mean, this is like Molly's clown camp last week. I mean, it's just you open the door and we've got to walk right through now. So,
I mean, I'm going to paint a picture for you. We're on this like full company meeting, and Brad has very foolishly taken a screenshot of ChatGPT. He was doing some research so we could see his other chats going on the side. And one of them was he was asking for a recipe. What sort of recipe was this?
We made tacos last night. We wanted to make like a cabbage slaw. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a taco cabbage slaw or whatever. And so I asked him in the meeting, I was like, how did it go? And Jack, like the first words he says to the company, basically, he goes off mute and he said, it was okay. And everyone just like lost it.
I was like, it was actually quite good. I was excited about it. And he just, I was like, no.
Like the fact checking police are coming in here and be like, the data does not back that up.
So that was the highlight of my week. Honestly, that's the best thing that's happened to me in a while for sure. So.
But yeah, maybe is he coming to the users conference? If he is, you get to meet him in person and you'll get to hear about this iconic person and see him in real life. Okay, but back to our regularly scheduled programming. I've been spending my week thinking about payments and like tracking payments and authorizations and how we handle those things and make them more flexible over time if like things change on your booking. It's not necessarily the most fun work, but it is very stimulating, and like it's a lot of stuff you have to think through. So that's been my last couple days.
And I've been like just digging in, I feel like across like 500 different things. Like one day it was like all about advisor mobile web and starting to make things work more easily for advisors on the go. If you're on your iPad or you're trying to like look up a trip on your phone. The next day it was like, how are we going to do form response improvements to make it easier to see like forms related to trips and the responses right on the trip and on the contact. The next day it was like, how are we going to embed more advanced reporting for both advisors and agencies? So, and I feel like there's been, 3 or 4 other things that I'm not even going to call out. So it's been a bit of like there's a lot going on and it's all really exciting stuff and just kind of juggling, which we know I'm good at.
Good callback. If you missed last week's episode, you're going to want to go listen to that to get the inside joke there. But it has been a wild week. I mean, it is crazy that it's been basically 3 days. I think I was home, not home anymore, but I was home, which was really nice. And I felt like I got a chance to really catch up on conversations with some of our new hires. Like the team has been growing. We talked about a lot of these folks, but really leaning in and thinking about some of the AI efficiencies that we can get internally, working with Jack, thinking through like, what are all the really cool ways that we can start to use data to unlock value for all of you. Starting to do this kind of Q3 and really H2 second half of the year planning. So it's been a fun week to sort of zoom out a little bit in the kind of midpoint of the year and just think about how far we've come and really how much we're going to like how many cool things that we'll be building and shipping and launching and doing in the second half of 2025 here. So it's been a really cool week from that perspective. I think 4th of July, this is kind of like a funny random fact about me. I think this might be my favorite holiday, not because of, it being the 4th of July, but because it's like summer in northern Michigan. You just like, the weather's fantastic. You get to like have some lake time. And so I'm taking tomorrow off, and I'm like so excited to have like a day. So let the record show, we do take time off here at Tern. It does happen. So I'm looking forward to that. But let's get into what we did this week. Again, 3 days, and it's been a busy week. Molly's going to kick us off with organization, which is what we've learned as a company is your all's favorite topic, and we've got the data to back that up. So Molly, what's been happening in the world of folders?
Yeah, so we launched 2 folders for 2 new features, so task templates and forms. And every single time I look at like the data and Facebook, I'm just consistently blown away by the love, just the outpouring of love for folders. It's so fun. It's honestly like the funnest thing ever. We're seeing Facebook posts about someone on a plane, like kind of like with their iPad set up, and like Soda doing like folder organization and taking like a photo, and just how much fun she's having. We have Chloe with like the greatest organizational system known to man, and like teaching her ways to people on Facebook, and everyone freaking out. And we have over 8,000 folders already created across different types, which is just like wild and mind-blowing to me in just a few weeks of launching. So it's been amazing. It's also been so fun to like take screenshots of the excitement and share them with our engineering team, who's like doing all of the building, and just like seeing how excited they get to see like how excited you all are about folders. So I don't know. I think folders is maybe my new favorite feature that I've done at Tern, because it's just like every week it's like, ooh, more people love folders. And it's just like it's really, really fun.
It's so funny to think back when we're like, all right, we're going to build folders for the May webinar. It's like, should be a week. And now it's like, oh, actually, this is going to be like a many weeks thing, but so worth it, right? I mean, I think we had questions around, is it worth that much time? And just like the usage and the engagement and the excitement has just answered that so unequivocally that like, this is one of the more hype features we've built. And yeah, watching people organize it. I think I may have shared this last week, but like I was in Toronto at TMP, and like watching Lauren from Modern Travel show the organization that she creates for every single one of her advisors. Like, it's so cool just to see how this is actually helping from an efficiency perspective. And even doing it on a plane from an iPad is great. I saw that picture and I was like, those mobile web updates that Molly's talking about, it's going to be pretty exciting. But love that. We talked a little bit last week about the editor. We've made some really good progress there. And Brad, I think you're going to talk a little bit about sort of how that's evolving.
Yeah, so the editor like folders has been a very long saga of us like slowly getting more and more pieces of the product upgraded to use the new editor. And our current focus right now is on basically trip and activity content. So any rich text content you have today on trips and activities, we're going to be migrating we're going to be allowing you to use the new editor in those places. And we already have a lot of this work done, especially on the web side, like within the web app. We can internally test in a way where we can start to use the new editor to create content and show that content in like an exported PDF on the itinerary, etc. And we're currently working on making that content available in mobile as well. This is going to be something we want to like be very careful about. We know how important all of this trip information is, whether you're trying to sell a trip for the first time, where your clients are actually on the go, like looking up their details that they need when they're going to, their next tour or activity. And we're going to be like proactively communicating more here. So everyone should get an email about this. But part of kind of the way mobile development works is when you make changes like this, sometimes you make a change where you actually require somebody to upgrade their app in order to see the new content. So if you're making, in our case, if you start drafting content in the new editor, once we roll this out, and it's for a trip, if your client's trying to view that on the mobile app, if they're looking at an old version of the mobile app, the formatting might not look right for them. It will be kind of like stripped down a little bit because we're replacing technology, and there's like the new technology that you're using to write the content, but their old version of the app doesn't have that new tech yet. And so we're basically we'll have a notification in the mobile app if that happens for any clients, if their app hasn't updated, telling them that they should upgrade their app to see it all formatted appropriately. But that's just kind of like, we're giving everyone an early heads up. We're not rolling this out right before the holiday weekend. This should be something that will come, I think, next week, Molly. Is that right? We're expecting.
Yeah, and possibly the week after, just depending on how much testing we're able to do, how the communication goes, if people have any questions or concerns. Like, we're going to handle this with care. We know people are really eager for the new editor on trips, but especially given it's like busy travel season for clients, we're not going to rush it. And then the other just thing I would say here is, for basically, it's a little bit nuanced and like confusing to talk about, but we actually only convert things over to the new editor content if you actually like click into an activity and then you publish the trip again. That's the only time the client will start to get impacted, and it's just for the specific activities you click into. So all that is to say, like, if you have a bunch of travelers that are just like on their trips already, you're not clicking into the activities, you're not republishing the trips, they're not going to notice a difference. This is really if you're like actively going into trips or creating new activities, like that sort of thing, where the new editor will actually kick in. So it's not like all of a sudden all of their activities are going to be like stripped down with formatting. It's specifically for things that have been essentially like converted over to that new editor content, which again gets triggered by you actually clicking into the activity once we've rolled this out, and then also publishing the trip again for your client. So we'll make again that all that very clear in the email, but we think the impact will be low. But with anything with the client side, especially during this time of year, it's just like we want to be like extra careful about it.
And maybe like just kind of summarizing all of that, right? Like a mental model to think about this. Like essentially what we've been doing is we've been changing the language that text is stored in Tern. And so I think sometimes it's like, I'll maybe like come up with a overly simplified analogy here, but it's sort of like we used to store all the text in English. Now we're storing all the text in French. The mobile app is used to getting English, and all of a sudden it's getting French. And it's like, I don't know what to do with this, right? And so what we're doing is we're making sure that they both speak the same language, so that when you're doing the kind of updates, you're taking advantage of all the benefits of this new language, which actually will be in whatever language you write it in, to be clear. But like it actually can take advantage of that. So, again, new editor, updating all these things. It's like really just like these two things need to be able to talk to each other in the same language. And when we introduce the new editor, it sort of changes. And so we need to make sure that with the new mobile app update that it is able to talk that language, and that's what this rollout is all about. So a lot more comms coming, and we're doing all of this to make sure that it is incredibly seamless for your clients, and it will give you all the benefits of the new editor. But it's something that we want to be overly transparent about, so that there are no surprises if you get a question around why does this look weird, but it will still be in whatever language you're talking about, just to be clear.
Brad and I didn't like that analogy.
Yeah, I could tell. But I committed to it. We were in it, so we went for it. Let us know in the comments if you like the analogy or if it made it more confusing, so that we can continue to improve our analogies and also drive up our engagement.
I'm genuinely curious. I could be wrong.
This is help us improve the analogies used on FlightPath. Anyway, so that's the editor, and we've also made a bunch of other kind of quality of life updates, and one of them is kind of garbage. Molly, do you want to talk about that?
Good one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a sad day when I can stop talking about this project, because we've been having a lot of fun with it internally, because it's called Trash, the project. And so whenever the engineers build it, I get to say your work is trash. Whenever advisors celebrate it, I get to say advisors love trash. And so it's just like a lot of fun. But the feature itself is essentially letting advisors recover recently deleted trips. So if you delete a trip within 7 days, you can go right to the trip's trash, and there's a little restore button right on the table of any trips. You see actually the number of days remaining that you have until it will be permanently deleted, which is 7. You can restore it right there. And this actually, like, it happens more than we at least expected. Like, we will get a very steady trickle of support requests coming in with an advisor just being like, I suddenly deleted this trip, or maybe they wanted to delete it, but then realized a little bit later that it was either the wrong one or they had some reason that they needed content on it still. And we don't even know the ones who didn't even reach out to support and were just sad that their trip was gone too. So very excited. People are hyping it up on Facebook. So excited to see like all of the love and excitement there. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be a sad day to stop talking about trash, but I think we'll find our next thing, soon, hopefully.
Okay, two thoughts. One, I just want to recognize that I feel like I really redeemed myself with that joke, with my bad metaphor, but into a pretty good joke. So I just wanted
Yeah,
to say that out loud.
that was good.
And two, I saw some comments in the Facebook group around like you should never delete trip. Like, oh, and there's like this sort of feedback. And so maybe just like a quick framework for like how to think about deleting trips. If you created a duplicate trip and you don't need that trip, that's a good example of why you maybe want to delete that trip. Maybe you created a trip and then it was by accident, or you were doing a demo for somebody, you don't want that in your site. Delete the trip. That's okay. Generally speaking, though, our recommendation, if this is a trip that's already happened or anything like that, you put that into an archived status and then you just hide the archive status from your view. We do not expect that people should be deleting trips regularly, because if you delete a trip, it will delete all of your financial booking, deletes that from your customer history. Like, so deleting trips is a mechanism that is important, because otherwise you have a lot of garbage data for how people actually use it. But it is not the recommended way to not look at data, right? Like if you don't want to look at it, put it into an archive status and filter that out from your view, and it will remember that and will save it. So just wanted to clarify that this feature is because a lot of people were deleting trips by accident, which is still perplexing, but it happens. And it was a really bad day. And this is making it less of a bad day, but it is still not the recommendation. Oh, Molly's got a little impromptu screen share going on. I love this.
Well, I figured this might just be useful, like a little turn tip here. So, as David said, you can have this like little archived status, and you can just easily move trips into it along the board. And then in this filter view, these are sticky. So if you just want to like never see trips that are canceled or archived, then they basically completely disappear from your view. And then the other thing that a lot of people I think don't know about, because the other reason I hear some people deleting trips is like, well, I don't want my client to gosh, where is it? Is it here? Unpublished trip. So a lot of people don't actually know you can unpublish the trip. So you could unpublish it and archive, which basically just means that your clients won't be able to access it anymore either. So if that's a reason why you are deleting it, so that your client actually can't have the itinerary anymore, definitely like canceled or archived is often a better option.
And just so, go ahead, Brad.
I was just gonna say you can unpublish when you're viewing a trip. Up by the publish button, there's a little 3 dot menu. Click that 3 dot menu, and that's where you see the unpublished button.
I was
Wait,
going to say
are
the
you
same.
seeing it?
We are
yeah,
seeing
you
it, but
should.
just so if you're listening, you're on the trip, you click
Your
on the
sports
trip, you
app.
go to the itinerary or sportscasting, you click on the 3 dots up in the top right, and that's where you can unpublish it on the itinerary tab. And then I think most people know this, but it is surprising to me how often I talk to folks who are like, I didn't know you could change the columns on the trip view. You can change those columns to whatever you want it to be. And you just do that by going up to the top right, clicking on your little avatar, clicking on settings. It's under trip settings, I believe. And that's where you can change and edit. And Molly will show for those that maybe are watching on the video. You click on settings up in the top right, trip settings. You've got the standard list. And then there's a button that just says edit right next to statuses. You can drag them around. You can change the ordering. You can rename them. You can add them. And so you'll have those. But you'll notice, again, if you're watching, that you've got canceled and archived as system controls. Those are always present. So we have those there. So you'll always have those twos that you can drive it into. And then again, just on the trips page, those filters where you see on the top right, filter, sticky, so you can edit those out. So again, I would say, don't endorse deleting there's not that many reasons you want to delete trips unless it's actually bad data. It shouldn't actually be in your system. But what we saw is that people would delete trips that have a bunch of important information on it, and then there was no way to recover it without our engineers doing a ton of work. And so that's why this feature is there. But so that was just one thing that we added in terms of quality of life improvements. We, as promised, have a lot to talk about for 3 days. And Brad's going to talk about some of the other quality of life improvements that we shipped this week.
Yeah, so the first one, we are continuing to make updates to the overview tab on trips. And we made it so that if you're used to, if you have like a task due on your overview tab, and you're used to just clicking the little check mark next to the task to mark it as complete, like you can do elsewhere in Tern, like on the task page, you can now actually click that and it'll work instead of having to click the mark as complete button, basically that's in line there. So shout out to Kayla, one of our engineers, for doing that. She was just kind of like, I wonder what this would take. And then a minute later had the fix kind of like ready to be reviewed and was like, this is cool, right? We can merge it. Sounds good. So Kayla got that one out, and I know that'll be helpful. We've had a bunch of people write in being like, oh, I just really want to click this check mark. And so now you can. Beyond that, we also made another small tweak for accessibility on bookings like activities, packages, or insurance, non-insurance activities or packages, where you can have confirmation numbers. If you need to add another confirmation number, there used to just be a button that was kind of floating around saying add, and now it just says add additional confirmation or something more descriptive. So that'll be helpful for everyone, but also people who are, again, using screen readers if that's coming up. And then another little one, we added an additional adjustment type. So now you can, in addition to selecting like fee and bonus, you can select tax as the type of adjustment that you need to log when you're reconciling commission, which should be helpful, I think, especially for folks in Canada. David, is that right?
100%. This was something at the kind of event that I was at in Toronto. There's this whole concept of like they have to track that I paid GST or HST. And as an agency, they've been putting it under the adjustment, and they've been putting it as like other. But it's like kind of hard to keep track of like what was other 6 months ago, right? So now being able to say this was tax that was, you know, adjusted out and that I paid or that they paid is huge. And then, you know, there's probably other geos where that's going to add a ton of value as well. So excited about that.
Yeah, David, I think someone who was there at the event posted in Slack, and Andrew had like a GitHub, and he had like built the change and shared it like a few minutes later. It was pretty cool.
The more we talk about engineers here, the more I want to use engineering language, and like this means nothing.
Yeah.
Pull request, like, yeah. They made it. They fixed it. They made new things happen.
They did their thing.
Okay, and the thing here is now if an agency is importing contacts, those are no longer case sensitive. Well, specifically for email addresses, we used to match on things being case sensitive. So if you had a capital letter in the email address and you previously imported it with like not a capital letter, right? Like that would cause duplicates. So this should now be fixed and should probably actually, should work.
I actually also realized I forgot one when I was putting things into the agenda, which is kind of like one of the more fun problems to have, which as we started to work with these like larger and larger agencies, the teams page where you're like inviting your team members and you're like managing your team was getting too large because now we have agencies with like hundreds of agents, which is pretty cool. So Emmy, one of our new engineers, both made it so that active memberships were on top because like they were interspersed before with like inactive memberships. So like that was just a nice little thing. But you can also now sort on all of the columns. So you can sort on like email address, you can sort on last name for your team, you can sort on their status, their role. So that should just be a huge win again for those larger agencies.
And I'm realizing I misspoke a little bit. Where it's the new thing that's not case sensitive is the agent email address. So if you're bulk importing contacts and you're assigning them to a specific agent, that's no longer case sensitive. This has worked for contacts for the longest time, so I don't want to make people confused there. It's just the agent email address for agency level importing of contacts.
Exactly.
Just a little bit easier to switch to Tern now as an agency when it comes to moving all that data over, right? That's the win.
The bottom line.
That's the bottom line. Well, we've got a couple of minutes. We just wanted to end this kind of session with a little bit of a look forward. As we kind of mentioned at the start, now that we're in July, we are officially in the second half of the year, kind of Q3 or Q4, as we would call them, being the last 2 quarters of the year, or H2, just to throw in even more acronyms for the second half of the year. Welcome to Startup Land, where we have an acronym for everything. But this is kind of a natural inflection point where we started to think about, okay, what should the rest of the year look like? What are kind of the big themes that we're focusing on? We do that at the kind of 6-month level. I would say more at the very like thematic concept, and then we zoom in and get a little bit higher fidelity at the quarter level. But if you're a frequent listener to the podcast, you'll know we leave a lot of room in the roadmap to be agile, to say like, actually, we think this thing is now more important than that thing, and so things will change. So it's always kind of tough when we kick off these sorts of sections. Like we want to give you into a kind of a glimpse into our current thinking. But we always caveat it with we are listening, we are learning, we will continue to adapt and reorder things based on the feedback from all of you. But wanted to give you kind of a glimpse into what I'll call like the 3 buckets of like big things that we want to make sure you're seeing from us over the next 3 months. And Molly's going to kick it off with a little bit of, just sort of an overall, maybe something that's like not changing, I guess, and what you won't see change as much as what is going to be new.
Yeah. So I think when we think about our most important priority, whether it's Q3, Q4, H20, 2027, I'm gonna stop. I was about to do even more use. It's making sure that every single week we are launching improvements that agencies are going to get really excited about, that advisors are going to get really excited about, that are improving Tern for you, that are adding key features that you need, quality of life improvements that you need, making it more efficient to use Tern, maybe some like wow factor type of surprise features like we did with destination guides, AI destination guides, and AI packing lists. And that's what's not going to change. Like that is our number one priority for Q3. We have some really exciting features that are very high on that list, including, like I alluded to earlier, things like making form responses actually show up and appear in the places that you need them, like the trip and the contact, a dashboard across all of your trips, global search, more investments in AI. Like I think there's a set of things that we know, again, just matter so deeply to our advisors that that will be a consistent, again, week over week momentum and launches there. So that's going to be really exciting. And that's also, that's going to be paired with like client mobile app improvements and making it easier to do all of these things on the go as an advisor. So those mobile web improvements that we talked about, making sure everything kind of fits better when you actually make the screen size smaller. And then the other, in the same bucket, there's a bunch of things in our minds for like the agency specific things like back office and administrator workflows. So improving collaboration, giving you more advanced reporting, which I think will be awesome for advisors too. Actually, the way that we'll build it will unlock a lot of these advanced reports for everybody, but we're seeing them particularly come up from agency owners trying to switch over from other platforms where they need more advanced reporting, like lead tracking and conversion, and I could, splitting up sales reports by destinations and stuff like that. There's kind of a long list of reporting needs, and it's kind of fun how we're strategizing on being more flexible to support more things within the views that we're adding. So I can't share too much because we're still kind of going over that strategy, but that will be really exciting. And then we're also continuing our consortium integration. So as many of you know, Virtuoso is like a really important partner to us. We already launched our signature integration that will continue to improve. So that will be just another area that we're consistently investing in.
Well, that's gonna be hard to beat. I mean, that was basically like top feature request bingo there. I mean, like global search and reporting and like also mobile and like, I mean, how are we supposed to follow that, right? And so, I'll summarize that section as like, it's gonna be an epic second half of the year, very epic Q3. And again, like, hope to surprise and delight, continue to release these features that make you want to go to Facebook and tell the world about like, how much time this is going to save you, or, how cool this thing is. Like, that's super motivating for us. We know what we need to do. That's right. Like, what's not changing is Molly's war on clicks. The click murder is going to continue. Fear not. I was worried after the conversation last week that we might have been updated, our classification might have changed to like murder podcasts, which I don't know. We'll see. But it might be good for the subscriber count. People will be very surprised as they got into it. But anyway, we also are kind of in a cool place where we're going to keep all the momentum going there, and we've been able to basically double our engineering team over the past couple weeks and months, and that's going to open up some new opportunities to start to innovate in new verticals, or maybe not new verticals. And that, Anyway, I'm going to hand it over to Brad to talk about that.
Yeah, as we've talked about in the podcast over the last, I don't know, probably months at this point, we've really been growing the team and investing in growing, especially the R&D team, bringing new engineers on. So we have, as David mentioned, more space to kind of take on new, maybe not so much experimental, but just like new areas that we want to invest in the product that we haven't spent as much time on before. And one of those areas is actually more kind of like financial tooling for agencies who are operating at times a little more like tour operators, where they're actually processing payments for travel, managing those funds, and then paying out suppliers directly with, with that money that they're collecting from clients. And we know this is like most of the people who are using Tern today, this is not the way you operate. And for the most part, won't be something you'll like jump on right away. But we're also getting pressure from a lot of agencies who are either using Tern for everything other than payments today, or who want to use Tern and they need to be able to process payments to incorporate this into the product. And we've talked about it a bunch before, use words like trip funds and group funds, but that's the type of thing that we are really going to be spending more time on. We're finally there. We're like actually starting to build these things, and we're probably going to take this pretty slow over Q3 because there's just a lot of, we've talked about this, like a lot of like risk for us to navigate, make sure we're doing this in the right way, because we're actually, managing real money moving through from clients' hands to your hands and to suppliers. But that'll be a big focus. I'm personally really excited about how that will kind of force us to level up the way we handle payments today. We get a lot of feedback from folks around kind of the way we do payment schedules, where like sometimes you like something changes on the trip and you want to be able to go from like, oh, this was one payment to like, actually it's a deposit and a final. Oh no, I've lost my entire history of payments, stuff like that. Or just like being able to kind of manually track things that have been paid, like partial payments, which you can't do today. There's little things like that will kind of have to improve in order to actually support real money being tracked in the system. And we're starting to dig into that now, and it's going to be kind of a big focus through Q3. So we've mentioned a few times before, if you're interested, you want to be part of the beta, like definitely reach out. We're having a lot of these early conversations already, and really excited to be building with a lot of agencies who want to provide this.
And I'm excited to not have to share the workaround for refunds of like doing a negative amount and like adding that as a package, and actually supporting like structured tracking for refunds. Like that's going to be huge. And that's something that, regardless of whether you want to use Tern for something like trip funds, like it will benefit everyone. So I think there's going to be so many things like that. And the things that you mentioned, Brad, that it will actually just like really up-level the entire product, that I'm particularly excited about.
And I think what's really cool about this, and we'll kind of talk about this other phase, is, I sort of think about what are the different investments that we're making, right? And there's like a series of investments that are just like so obvious, will benefit every user. And like you could continue to make those investments, and you don't really kind of grow holistically, and we'd improve the product, but you don't necessarily get to the broader vision that we have from Tern, just focus on that lane. You think about Tern, we really want to think about how do we build the system that truly defines what the advisor of the future looks like? How do we really think about eliminating this invisible work? How do you think about collaboration, not just as your team, but with suppliers and DMCs and the kind of global partners that you're working with in a way that has just never really been done before? And just improving one part of the product as this today will probably not recognize that. You have to start to make these bets where you're expanding the infrastructure, you're expanding the foundation, and payments is one of those. And it may be many years before you get there, but I was talking to a DMC at GTM West, and they were like, oh my gosh, it'd be so nice to have a platform where we can actually start to take payments and store that out and distribute to our suppliers and collaborate more effectively with travel advisors in the US. Like that would be an incredibly valuable product for us. We're not that far away, right? Like you start to build out this financial infrastructure, you look at the collaboration tools, like that's an entirely new way to partner with people in the industry that we would be positioned to build, but we have to build this foundation first. And so it's really exciting to have the resources to be able to continue to invest and improve every single week the tools that you're using, but also be able to put some chips on the table to build out some of these foundational elements that we know will be changing your world in 3 years, right? But that we have to start now in order to get there. One of the other things that I sort of put in that bucket that I'm excited to start to explore in Q3 is kind of under this like supplier integration umbrella. There's so many opportunities here. We have so many different kind of organizations that want to integrate with us. We get emails from all of you every single day about different companies that we want to connect with. And so as we thought about sort of the ways to prioritize this, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is like, what are the types of things that travel advisors sell that have a high time barrier? Basically, what are the things that like you could sell but take a lot and maybe don't result in a commission check that justifies the time, because that's likely where you're to find value that's been left on the table, right? You have things like, hey, I talked to an advisor again at this conference, then they're like, I probably quote travel insurance 30 to 40% of the time, but most of the time it's just like too much work for me to go and actually generate all the quotes and send that to my client. I know I could be making 30% commission on it, but it's just like too much to do every single time, especially if it's a smaller trip. And so you think about, like, that's money left on the table if people aren't buying that. It's also clients who are left unprotected, right? They're not giving that offer. It's the more risk to your business. So it's really interesting to start to think about, like, well, what if you could eliminate the time that it took to actually generate an insurance quote, right? Like, what would that actually look? Would that let people sell more? Like, what if it was just there, automatically generated for you? And so it's kind of interesting to start to think about that. It's interesting to start to look at, another category of things around activities, short excursions, transfers, right? These things that really matter to the kind of trip experience, but that if you're doing a 30-day FIT across Europe, sourcing activities every single day, like, oh my gosh, like how much time is that going to take? And each one's going to be like $10, adds up over the whole trip, but how much time is it going to take? So it's interesting to start to think about, like, well, what if you could automate that and kind of personalize that using Tern data in a way? So we're very early in this, but it's sort of like, starting to like feel out what the shape of solutions that product might look like, what partnerships might look like there. And, I think whether it's late Q3 or it's Q4, like hopefully we'll have some really cool things that start to rethink this eliminate invisible work element. Like, we are laser focused on eliminating visible work. We know that every click, to use Molly's thing, that we can eliminate, every inefficient workflow that we can eliminate gives you more time to sell, to spend with clients, to spend with your loved ones. But it's also to think about, like, how do we eliminate the invisible work of the actual sales process and actually help you sell more faster? And so it'll be fun to kind of dip our toe into that water in Q3. So more to come on that. I'm leaving it sufficiently vague, but hopefully helpful to hear kind of the types of problems that we're starting to think about. So as expected, we're almost 40 minutes in, and we're talking about a 3-day week, and so you can see a lot's going on. Let's sort of end here with what the week ahead is going to look like. Molly, you want to kick us off?
Oh my gosh, I don't even think I've thought about what the week ahead is going to look like.
Are you doing anything fun for the 4th? Let's start with that.
I am. So for listeners of the podcast, they know I have a 6-month-old and I have Riley's a little bit over a year, and we're doing a 4th of July parade, and they're going to be in like cute little cars with like, like the 4th of July little like banner things, and we're going to take lots of pictures, and it's going to be adorable. And it ends basically at this beach, and they do a penny hunt, which is like pennies are in the beach and the kids like look for pennies. So I don't know. Apparently that's like a thing in Michigan. I had never heard of it before I came here. So it's all going to be quite adorable, I feel.
That's very cute.
And then, I think we're continuing to just like test and make sure we're all set to go on the editor rollout. And then some of the client mobile app updates should be shipping next week. So those are the main things on my lens, in addition to continuing to kind of plan out all the things I mentioned at my start of the week update.
Wow. Hard pivot from really cute, adorable kid stuff to editor work, but we'll take it. This is Molly's life in a nutshell. Brad, how about you? Anything fun for the 4th, and any highlights looking at next week?
I have no idea. I have not had the mental capacity to plan fun things for the 4th of July, which is maybe a thing I need to reevaluate. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe we'll go down the shore. Maybe we'll go hiking. I'm sure we'll get outside. It's been hot and muggy and rainy in Philly, so hopefully it'll be nicer this weekend. And then work-wise, next week, I think probably just like more time thinking about payments. There's a lot to untangle there. So like Zach, Jade, and I are just like on calls being like, what about this? How does that piece fit in? Or do we like pull that out? And I think that will probably be a big focus next week, in addition to finally getting out some like contact form improvements that we've been working on for a little bit, and probably spending a bunch of time testing the editor too, to just make sure that's all good before we do a full roll there.
Love that. I sort of said this at the beginning, up north in Michigan right now. Then after this, I'm like, gonna go like enjoy Lake Huron and just like chill, which will be really nice. Just to kind of unplug for a little while and recharge. And people along the beach set off fireworks. Like, we don't even have to go anywhere, and we don't have to buy any. So it's like we just get a free show with none of the risk. And so that's nice. And then next week, home the first 3 days, kind of doing a lot of the same, and then we're back to GTM North America in Fort Lauderdale. So if you'll be attending that, let us know in the comments. Shoot me an email, just David@Tern.travel. We'd love to meet up. But it's another good one with we're back on the road, and then I think we have another conference after that. So it's back to travel and back to spending time with all of you.
You know what? Whenever David goes away, actually my next week is going to turn into, he has like a giant list of all of the things at Tern that he's been thinking about when he's unplugging. And so I actually think that's going to be my week next week, is reacting to all of David's thoughts.
I've never thought.
Okay. This is apparently something I don't realize that happens, but yeah, no, it's been known when I'm like unplugged from email. It's when my brain starts to wander. I think about work most of the time, so it's possible. It's possible. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but it's maybe I'll try and space it out. I'll schedule one per day for the next 3 weeks or something. All right, with that, we're going to give you whatever you have to do today. We're going to let you go do that. Thank you for tuning in to Flight Path. As always, I hope you have a fantastic 4th of July weekend if you're here in the U.S. If you're the rest of the world, you can just ignore all the 4th of July talk. And we will see you in the next episode. Click the subscribe button. Let us know in the comments what you thought of my metaphor. If you missed Molly's clown reference, go back to last week's and watch that. And we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.